The new LinkedIn Hiring Pro can't undo your last hire. The human postponer. They were the master of one phrase. I'll circle back on that. But 3 months later, you were the one doing all their work and wondering how big that circle is. But LinkedIn Hiring Pro can take the hiring load off your plate by automating the hiring busy work from the initial job post to scheduling interviews. Hire right the first time with LinkedIn Hiring Pro. Post a free job today at linkedin.com/quality.
This episode is brought to you by Accenture. When your advertising operations fall out of sync, everything else follows. Spotify and Accenture are working together to reinvent the rhythm of ad sales, using automation, analytics, and smarter workflows to simplify campaign delivery and access better data across the business. The result? Less time spent on operations, more time connecting brands with the moments and fandoms that matter most. Learn more at accenture.com/Spotify.
I want you to try something with me before this episode even really starts. So, just for a second, notice what your day has been so far. Don't really judge it, just notice it. How many alerts have you gotten today? How many headlines have you read? How many hot takes and arguments and breaking news banners, algorithmically selected reasons to be angry or afraid before you even finished your coffee? If you're like most people, if you're like me, the answer is probably a lot. More than you could count, probably. And the thing I want you to stay with today, all of that stuff arrived roughly the same time for millions of people. The same headline hit millions of phones in the same minute, right? The same outrage cycle spun up in millions of feeds in the same, hour, I guess. We're already synchronized every single day. We just never chose it. We synchronize around panic and outrage and fear. The most connected species in the history of this planet, and the thing that moves through the network fastest is almost the worst thing that happened that day. So this is what my whole episode is about. What happens if just once, and just for 5 minutes, we synchronize around something else? On purpose.
You're listening to Unbound, off script. No outlines, no safety nets, just Beth Curry talking about whatever the hell she wants, or whatever the hell you've asked her to uncover. It's unfiltered, it's unpredictable, and it's officially started. Pull up a chair and don't expect her to stop talking anytime soon. She's a total blabbermouth. Take it away, Beth.
Hey everybody, welcome to Unbound Off Script. Today I want to tell you about something if you haven't heard about it yet. It's called the Great Synchronization. It's happening on September 21st, 2026. The International Day of Peace, of course, at 2 p.m. Central Time. It's 5 minutes. It's 4 words. It's one shared global movement and moment. And full disclosure right up front, I'm not like a neutral journalist on this one. I'm covering it, I'm spreading it, and I'm going to be participating in it myself. I'll tell you exactly why by the end of this episode, and I'll tell you why I think it's worth doing, even if you're the most skeptical person you know. So hopefully you'll stick around with me. This one is going to be weird, but that's kind of the point, and it's me also. So, here we are. Okay, so we're going to start with the plain facts, because I know probably some of you people listening have heard about this either through me or just somewhere else. I don't know, maybe through the person who brought me to it. It's global synchronized moment of collective intention. You probably heard this and your eyebrow went up, right? Fair. Mine did too. First time, at least. The Great Synchronization is exactly what it sounds like. So on Monday, September 21st, 2026 at 2 o'clock Central, that's 3 Eastern, noon Pacific, 8 Central Europe, whatever. There's a full as time zone chart on the website, which is greatsynchronization.org. People all over the world are going to stop what they're doing for 5 minutes and hold one shared intention. 4 words: peace, love, unity, respect. That's it. That right there. That's the whole event. Okay? No stadiums, no stage, no headliner, no leader up front telling you what to think or how to feel. Nobody's asking you to travel anywhere or buy anything or join anything or sign anything. You participate from exactly where you already are. Maybe your kitchen, your car, your desk, a park bench, wherever. And the part that I love, you don't have to do it in any particular way either. The organizers are pretty explicit about this. You don't have to be good at meditation. You don't have to be spiritual. You don't have to be spiritual enough, which honestly, what a phrase, right? Many of us have kind of skipped things because we felt like we weren't the right kind of person for them. But for those 5 minutes, you can meditate if that's your thing. You can pray in whatever tradition is yours. You can sit in silence. You can breathe. You can light a candle. You can light a doob. I don't know. You can sit outside and just be outside. You can hold someone you love in your heart or in your arms. You can repeat those 4 words to yourself: peace, love, unity, respect. Just kind of like a quiet little mantra, right? Or you can simply just refuse for 5 minutes to feed the fear machine, right? That counts too. The organizers literally say sitting in your car after work and breathing counts. Is it religious? No. People of any faith or no faith at all are equally welcome. The only shared thing is the intention and the timing, right? There's also a participation map on the site, which is pretty cool because I've seen this from double-digit numbers grow to where it is today. I want to talk about it for a sec because I think it's the smartest part of the whole design too. Like when you decide that you're in, you just tap a button, I'm participating, and you get added to this like global map, right? Like it's not your exact location or anything like that. The map just kind of uses broad region and country data. So, nobody's home address is sitting on a public website. But what you see instead is the signal spreading, right? Like these dots lighting up and countries getting counted. And there's even a group selector. So if you're doing it with your family or your classroom or your book club, your coworkers, you can check in once for all of you and the whole group kind of gets counted. So why does the map matter? I think it does because this, like, the hardest part of something like this is feeling like you're the only one, right? 5 minutes of silence alone in your kitchen feels a little silly. Although I do this every day, many times a day, just to kind of ground myself. 5 minutes of silence in your kitchen while a map shows you that thousands of other kitchens are doing the same thing actually feels like something, right? So that's the what. And I want to talk about the kind of where this came from part of it as well, because it's not the first one. So the first Great Synchronization happened on March 21st of this year. Same kind of format, 5 minutes, 4 words, an open invitation for people to kind of pause wherever they were. Again, no leaders to follow, no travel required. It came out of a group called The Weird Collective. You can find them on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I'll link everything in the show notes. And I have to say, I appreciate a movement that just owns its name like that, especially when it's so relatable to me. They're not calling themselves the Global Institute for Consciousness Alignment or something with a lot of syllables and a mission statement. They're just the Weird Collective. Their own FAQ basically says, yeah, this is a little weird, and that's kind of the point, right? According to the organizers, the idea didn't come out of nowhere either. It came from months of chewing on some big, strange old questions, right? Collective consciousness, historical synchronization experiments, global meditation moments, the new sphere. If you don't know that word, hang on, because we're getting there in the next segment. It's interesting. The collective unconscious, that odd, hard to name way that people sometimes feel connected even when they're thousands of miles apart. And then September 21st presented itself. And honestly, I think the timing is too clean. It's the International Day of Peace, right? This is a real thing, by the way. It was established by the United Nations back in 1981, way back in the 1900s. And fixed on September 21st since 2001. So every year on that day, the UN Secretary General rings the peace bell at the UN headquarters. And that's a bell that was cast from coins donated by children from dozens of countries. There's this whole ass global tradition of ceasefires and moments of silence attached to this date already. And September 21st, 2026 also happens to land exactly 6 months after the first synchronization in March. The organizers said the timing wasn't something to ignore, and I get it. There's something kind of satisfying around a practice that comes back around kind of like a comet, right? Like equinox to equinox, spring to fall, whatever. It stops kind of being a one-off event and starts being a little bit more, I think. The word practice too is going to matter a whole lot later in this episode, so hang on to that one. So I promised you the history segment, and this is where the episode gets either fun or weird. I don't know. The Great Synchronization is not appearing out of thin air. So humans have been experimenting with synchronized stillness for over a century. I'm going to take you on a quick tour. Stop number 1 was all the way back 1919. There was a 2-minute silence. After World War I, King George V called for the entire British Empire to stop. Just completely stop for 2 minutes on the anniversary of armistice. And people did. Trains halted and telephone calls or exchanges or whatever went quiet, and traffic stopped in the streets, and court proceedings paused mid-sentence, and newspapers at the time described whole cities going still at once. And people who lived through it talked about it for the rest of their lives. Not because anything supernatural happened, but because they had never felt a city hold its breath before, right? The silence is still observed every November more than 100 years later. So think about what that proves. It's a synchronized pause at scale with nothing but a shared clock and a shared intention. It's not a fringe idea, kids. It's one of the most durable public rituals of the modern world. Okay. So continuing on, stop number 2, December 31st, 1986. This one's wilder. It was called the World Instant of Cooperation. Sometimes World Healing Day. And the idea was pushed by a writer named John Randolph Price and a loose network of meditation and peace groups. And it was to get millions of people around the planet kind of meditating and praying for peace at the exact same moment. It was noon Greenwich time on New Year's Eve. So estimates of participation kind of vary a lot, as you'd expect from 1986. There was no participation back then, and no apps, and there were just newsletters and word of mouth, I guess. But by most accounts, millions of people in dozens of countries took part. It's often cited as one of the first genuinely global synchronized meditation events. Moving on to stop number 3, August 1987, the harmonic convergence. So if you were alive in the 80s, you might remember this one because it made the news. It made the comics pages. Doonesbury made fun of it. Tens of thousands of people gathered at places like Sedona, Mount Shasta, and Machu Picchu for what was billed as the world's first globally synchronized meditation, tied to a rare planetary alignment. Now, look, a lot of framing around it was very 1987, right? Very crystals and prophecy. But strip away the packaging and the core mechanic is kind of the same one I'm talking about today, right? Many people, one moment, one intention. Moving on to stop number 4, and this one is for my skeptics. Princeton, New Jersey, starting in the late 1990s, a researcher named Roger Nelson ran something called the Global Consciousness Project out of a lab culture connected to Princeton. And the setup was this, a network of random number generators, so machines that produce pure electronic noise, coin flips at the hardware level, placed all around the world, running around the clock. And the hypothesis, during moments of massive shared human attention, New Year's Eve, huge disasters, global broadcasts, whatever, the randomness might get slightly less random. So these tiny statistical deviations correlated with moments of time when billions of minds were focused on the same thing. And the project kind of claims to have found small but statistically interesting deviations across hundreds of pre-registered global events. And I want to be pretty careful, as I like to be, and really honest as I like to be, because I respect you too much to oversell this. Mainstream science does not accept these results. Critics argue the effects are artifacts of how the analysis was selected, and the findings have never been convincingly replicated to the satisfaction of the broader physics and psychology communities. It is contested, fringe adjacent research, I guess. And if you take one thing from this segment, don't let it be Princeton proved minds affect matter. They didn't. But why I bring it up anyway, the question the project asked is the same question the Great Synchronization asks, just with different instruments. Does collective attention do anything? And science's honest answer right now is no measurable effect has been established. And the honest answer of the person who wrote the Great Synchronization website is, and I love this, basically the same. Okay, right there on the homepage, the organizer admits they don't know what happens when people around the world stop and choose peace at the same time. Maybe nothing, maybe something. Maybe the point is just to send a different signal for once, right? And that is the least grandiose pitch for a global consciousness event I've ever read. And weirdly, it's what won me over in this case. Again, because, I'm weird and it was relatable. One more piece of history, because the organizers name check it, the noosphere. So the idea, I love the word. The idea comes from French Jesuit priest and paleontologist named Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, working in the early 20th century alongside a Russian geochemist named Vladimir Vernadsky. The idea kind of goes like this. So first, the Earth had a geosphere, rock, water, air, and then a biosphere. That's the layer of living things. And Teilhard argued that a third layer was emerging, the noosphere, from the Greek nous, mind, a layer of thought wrapping the planet, human consciousness becoming interconnected enough to act like a single developing system. So he was writing this decades before the internet, okay? Before satellites, before a teenager in Jakarta and a grandmother in Ohio could watch the same video in the same second. Whatever you think of his theology, as a description, the man saw something coming. And Carl Jung's collective unconscious gets a nod too. The idea that beneath our individual minds, there's a shared substrate of human patterns and symbols, right? Again, not a claim I'm asking you to believe, just kind of part of the long lineage of humans suspecting that our minds might be less separate than they feel, right? So when September 21st comes around, understand you wouldn't be joining some brand new internet fad, okay? You'd be stepping into like a 100-year-old human experiment. So I'm going to argue against myself, though, for a few minutes, because if I don't, some of you will be spending the rest of the episode doing it for me. The skeptical case goes like this. 5 minutes of strangers thinking nice thoughts changes nothing. It doesn't stop a war. It doesn't feed anyone. It's basically, I don't know, feel good slacktivism with a map widget or something. I take that seriously. And here's my response in 3 parts, okay? I've thought this one out. Part 1, nobody's claiming it replaces action at all. The website doesn't say meditate instead of voting, volunteering, donating, or showing up for people, right? It's 5 minutes. Nobody's 5 minutes was otherwise going to solve the Middle East. Alrighty? The honest comparison isn't 5 minutes of peace versus 5 minutes of activism. It's 5 minutes of chosen stillness versus 5 more minutes of doom scrolling. That's the actual trade that most of us are making at 2:00 on a Monday. And on that comparison, I think stillness wins in a landslide. Part 2, even if nothing metaphysical happens, something real happens. And this part isn't fringe science either. This is boring, well-established mainstream science, okay? There's like this whole body of research on what synchronized behavior does to human beings. Sociologists have been circling it since Emil Durkheim, over a century ago, described what he called collective effervescence, which is like the electric sense of unity people feel when they do something together at the same time. The energy, the vibes. We go to concerts or whatever, and that's what we feel and describe it as. Modern lab research backs the mechanics. People who move, sing, row, drum, love drum circles in the LA area. If you're ever down there, do it. Try it. Or even just breathe in synchrony with others, show measurably increased trust, cooperation, and bonding afterwards. So studies of choirs and rowing teams have found that synchronized group activity elevates pain thresholds, a proxy for endorphin release, beyond what the same activity does when done alone. Marching, chanting, group prayer, stadium waves, when you're at the ball game, singing happy birthday. Humans have independently invented synchronized ritual in essentially every culture on Earth because it works. Okay, it bonds us. It's arguably one of our species' oldest technologies. Now, most of that research involves people in the same room. Can synchrony work when it's distributed or when the room is a map on a website? That's genuinely more of an open question, but anyone who's watched a global live stream chat during a rocket launch or felt something during a worldwide moment of silence has a pretty strong intuition that the answer is at least partly yes. Okay. Knowing that others are doing this with you right now, that knowledge alone changes the experience. And then there's the individual layer, which is even more solid. So 5 minutes of slow breathing measurably downshifts your nervous system. This is not controversial. Okay. Slow extended exhales activate that parasympathetic system. Your heart rate drops and your stress hormones ease off. I've talked about this a lot. 5 minutes won't rewire your life, but it will genuinely change the next hour of it. The organizers have a line about this too that stuck with me. The idea that the moment is only useful if it leaves something behind in the people who did it. That's the right frame. The 5 minutes is a doorway. It's not a destination. And now part 3, my favorite argument, the signal itself is the point. So go back to the cold open. We already run global synchronization events every single day. They're called news cycles. They're called trending topics. The infrastructure for planet-wide shared attention already exists, and it's running at full capacity 24 hours a day, and it is almost exclusively carrying fear, outrage, and catastrophe, for sure, because that's what the attention economy rewards. The Great Synchronization is, at minimum, a protest against that. So it's a demonstration in the literal sense that the network can carry a different signal if enough people choose to transmit one, right? Even if the only thing it changes is what a few 100,000 people did with 5 minutes on a Monday afternoon, it's proof of concept. It's proof that our synchronization doesn't have to be something that happens to us. It can be something we do. Again, maybe nothing, maybe something, but maybe nothing has a floor, and the floor is if you took 5 quiet minutes and a lot of other humans took them with you, that floor is higher than most of what I do at 2 p.m. on a Monday. So you're in, okay? Or you're at least curious. Here's the entire onboarding process, and I promise this is the shortest how to participate in a global event segment in podcast history because the whole thing was designed to be frictionless. Step 1, add your signal. Go to greatsynchronization.org and hit the participation button. If you're doing it with other people, your household, your friend group, class, office, whatever, there's a group selector right there. So pick 3 to 5, 10 plus, or whatever fits, and your whole crew gets counted in one tap. Again, no exact location shown, no account, no email harvest, no checkout page. You're a dot in a region. That's it. Step 2, set the time. The moment starts at 2 Central on Monday, September 21st, 2026. There's a time zone chart on the site and an add to calendar button. Use the calendar button. I'm serious about this. The number one way people miss things they genuinely wanted to do is by trusting their future self just to remember. You're not going to remember. You're going to forget. Do not trust yourself. You're busy. Put it in the calendar right now while you're still thinking about it. Set the reminder for 15 minutes before so you do have time to kind of wrap up whatever you're doing and find a decent spot. If you're at work in the middle of the day, take your pee break, 5 minutes, off you go. Step 3, when the moment comes, pause for 5 minutes and do it your way. Let me just paint a few pictures of what this could look like because I think hearing the options might help. Maybe you're at work, like I said, you take a break at 1:58, walk out to your car or go sit in the bathroom in your car, sit in the driver's seat and just breathe with your eyes closed until 2:05. Done. You participated. Maybe you're a person of faith. You pray for 5 minutes for peace, for the people you love, for the people you struggle to love. Done. You participated. Maybe you're home with the kids. You light a candle in the kitchen and tell them for 5 minutes, we are going to be quiet together because people all over the world are being quiet at this exact same time. Honestly, I think this might be the most powerful version of the whole thing because kids remember stuff like that forever, believe me. Maybe you meditate. Great. You already know what to do. Maybe you sit outside and watch the sky. Maybe you hold one person in your heart the entire time. Maybe you just repeat the 4 words slowly like footsteps. Peace, love, unity, respect. Or maybe you do the absolute minimum, which the organizers explicitly bless. You just stay quiet and refuse to feed fear for 5 minutes. No phone. Turn it off, put it away, walk away from it. No feed, no noise. That counts. It all counts, okay? There is a live stream if you want a place to gather, but they're clear that it's optional. One way to gather, not the way at all. So, if you don't want to do it, like I said, put the phone away, walk away from your phone. The actual moment happens wherever you are and whatever you're doing. And if you want to help it spread, this is the spreading it part of my own involvement. There's a share kit right on the site, graphics, links, ready to go posts. Tell one person. That's my ask, not blast it to your 5,000 followers, although, hey, feel free. Just tell one actual person. Face to face or in a real message. Hey, I'm doing this weird kind of beautiful thing on September 21st. Want to do it with me? Moments with no leaders, only grow one way, right? Sideways from person to person. And you are the distribution network. So tell the part about the website, that got me, the part that turned me from, well, this is a nice idea, to I'm making a whole podcast episode about this, is the section about what happens after the 5 minutes, because the organizers make this point, and I think it's the most mature thing about the whole project. A synchronized pause only matters if it leaves residue, if it changes something in the people who did it. Otherwise, it's just a very well coordinated nap. I don't know. So they take the 4 words and turn each one into kind of an ongoing tiny daily practice. I'm going to tell you how they frame it. I'm paraphrasing, but this is kind of what it is. Peace becomes something you practice before you post. The pause between reading the thing that made you furious and typing your response. That kind of 2-second gap, that's peace. Okay? Operationalized. Love becomes something you remember before you react. So before you snap at your kid or your partner or the customer service rep. It's a remembering, okay? Not a feeling. Unity becomes something you build in smaller spaces with real people. Not humanity in the abstract. Humanity as in your neighbor or your coworker or the guy at the gas station. It's unity at arm's length where it's actually hard, And respect becomes the line you refuse to cross. Even when the world rewards you for crossing it. And oh man, does the world reward you for crossing it. Dunking on people is the most reliably rewarded behavior on the entire internet. Respect as a practice means leaving those points on the table on purpose. So do you see what's happening here? Like the 5 minutes on September 21st is just a flashy part. It's the part with the map and the countdown, things lighting up, whatever. But the real payload, I think, is kind of smuggled inside of it. These 4 micro habits that you carry out of the moment and into your just ordinary week, right? The synchronization is the front door. The practice is the house. You know how I talk and speak about these things. But anyway, that's why the 6-month rhythm matters too. March, then September, presumably onward. I don't know. Not an event. It's kind of the world's most low-key recurring appointment. A standing meeting with stillness twice a year with the whole planet invited. So I'll tell you plainly as well, as I wrap this up, why I'm participating. I'm not participating because I'm certain something mystical happens when a million minds align. I told you the truth about the science. The measurable global consciousness question is unproven. It's not proven either way. It's unproven. And the person who built this thing doesn't even claim otherwise, okay? And I find that honesty a bit disarming. Anyone selling certainty about stuff, I would distrust. I generally do. Someone saying maybe nothing, maybe something, let's find out together, that I can work with because that's how I operate, okay? I'm in because of the counterfactual, because I know with total certainty what I would otherwise be doing at 2 p.m. on a Monday. September 21st, 2026. I'd be doing what I do every day at 2 p.m., probably taking a break between something, swimming in the noise, absorbing whatever the network decided to synchronize me around that hour. I don't know, someone else's outrage or someone else's emergency or someone else's signal. And for once, for 5 minutes, I get to choose the signal instead. I'm in because of the silence in 1919, because humans stopping together is one of the oldest, most reliable ways we've ever found to feel like a we instead of a pile of separate, frightened eyes, right? I'm in because it costs nothing and it requires no belief and it demands no purity and it asks 5 minutes. And I've spent 5 minutes on so much worse, honestly. And I'm in because of the map. I want to watch the dots light up. I want to sit in my quiet spot, knowing that somewhere someone's sitting in their car in a parking lot doing the same thing. Someone's lighting a candle I'll never see. Some classroom of kids is being weirdly, wonderfully quiet together. A grandma, a night shift worker, a teenager, a stranger. All of us kind of tuned for 5 minutes to the same frequency. Maybe nothing, maybe something. We've spent decades finding out what happens when the whole world synchronizes around fear. I think we've earned 5 minutes to find out what happens when we synchronize around the opposite. So here's your homework. It takes 90 seconds. Go to greatsynchronization.org, hit I'm participating, watch yourself become a dot on the map, add it to the calendar, check the time zone chart if you're not sure which one is for you. Tell one person, just one. Use the share kit if you want, or just say the words out loud to someone you like. And on the day, show up. It's 5 minutes, your way, peace, love, unity, respect, or just silence, and a small, deliberate refusal to feed the noise. You can follow the updates through the Weird Collective. They're on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And everything's linked in the show notes along with the time zone chart and the share kit. I will be there on September 21st. Quiet, eyes closed, one dot among many, hopefully a great many. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks for thinking about weird things with me, and I will see you next time.
And that brings us to the end of another episode of Unbound Off Script. Someone eventually had to pull the plug because, as you know, Beth will happily keep talking until the sun goes down. Thanks for listening, and we will see you whenever she finally runs out of things to say. I'm Rob, she's a blabbermouth, and we're out.